We have time for a maximum of 2 or 3 questions at most, because there is a few minutes at the end for concluding remark. The next question, please.
If we admit,
can you get close to the mic, please?
If we admit that Jesus died to expiate sin, what was the cost handed to Adam for committing sin? Is it not that women would bring food with pain and men would have to work for the bread? And is that finished in this story? Does the crucifixion help it? The next question I would like
No next question. No next question. Thank you. Professor Floyd, Clark, have you got the question?
Sorry, but I have one.
Sorry, we have to respect the rules. The question of the brother.
Only one question, please.
I have one question.
No second question. Please get in the back if there is a chance. Thank you. Please keep the quiet. Keep the order. Keep the order, please. Wait a minute until the question is answered. Professor Clark.
Again, I'm not sure I understand the question. Did you get it?
What was the topic? I remember if you tell me.
Something about sinning.
Oh yeah, he said that if Jesus died for our sin, and the Bible said that because of that original sin, man was destined to labor for his work in the book of Genesis, and woman would suffer the pregnancy and childbirth. How is that consistent then? If Jesus died for our sin, and still women are going through this suffering, and men are working for it.
Well, I think the question that has been asked concerning the role of the woman who has been suffering since since the beginning when Adam and Eve fell, and the woman has had this role of punishment because she disobeyed God. I think that question is very far from our discussion tonight, but in answer to this, we do know that the New Testament teaches that all creation was brought under bondage when man sinned, and that bondage will not be redeemed until the end when Christ redeems the world.
I think we'll have entertain one more question because we are running out of time. We have only 4 minutes left. The last one. Everybody has a question that is 1 sentence, but we have 50 sentences waiting. Go ahead.
I'd like to ask Professor Clark, in the book of Hebrew, chapter 5, verse 7, it says, who in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplication with strong cries and tears unto him, is God, that was able to save him from death, D-E-A-T-H, and was heard in that was he feared. Wasn't a clear indication that he was saved from this? Thank you very much.
Before the answer of the question, I have to apologize by asking the brothers or sisters who are waiting in line to forget it. We are sorry, we are already 10 minutes behind time. Did you get maybe? It's there are concluding remarks, so we can't take that. Would you please, could I ask those brothers who are standing here to please be seated? There is no more time. Professor Clark.
The Hebrew writer makes it quite clear that Jesus came as a man into the world to live as a man and to learn obedience. And though he was God's prophet in the world and God's son, yet there were things that he had to do common to man, and that he had to learn what it means as a man to have to obey. And in the midst of that, God heard him because of his faithfulness in a human flesh as he was laboring with the temptations and tortures and hatred that he received in the world. And God, of course, heard him because he was faithful in everything which he did.
Thank you. We come now to some concluding remarks and announcements. Would you please allow me to continue? Thank you. Tonight, we have already heard two very prominent, very sincere speakers. I know it is July, but when you add the heat of July to the heat generated in this hall, it might get a little bit too much. However, I feel that I am echoing the feeling of the great majority of those who are present, that it is indeed quite useful and beneficial for both Muslims and Christians to get together and to try to understand each other. Muslims and Christians together with nearly 1 billion more or less followers each constitute about 40% of world population. It is indeed very strange that we hear about détente between such divergent philosophies as the US and the Soviet Russia. And we never hear as much about badly needed détente between two communities of believers who share something much more significant than those shared by the US and USSR. The belief in the creators, the belief in the prophets and revelation, in the moral laws, and on the responsibility for our life and in the life hereafter. I do invite the Muslim audience who are here to try sincerely to understand the standpoint of our Christian brethren. They are free, of course, to read the Quran and see what the Quran, the word of Allah, in their belief say about Jesus, but they must also try to understand Christianity from the standpoint and the way Christians understand it. But I'd like also to invite the Christian brothers and sisters sitting with us here to also have a sincere attempt to understand the teachings of Islam from its pristine sources. One scholar once commented that until relatively recently, 95% of the books written about Islam has been written by non-Muslims, mostly missionary or Orientalists. And he's a good friend of mine, Reverend Harry Armand. When he quoted this, he addressed the Christian audience and said, what is your feeling as a Christian if 95% of the books written about Christianity are written by Muslims? As such, I hope that the least that can be done would be to refer to the Quran, which is the revelation the Muslim believe is to be the word of God. In fact, can you get me a copy of the Quran? I was told that outside here in the souvenir shop, there are copies available of the translation of the meaning of the Quran by Yusuf Ali. It is, the brother will show it to you, and I understand it is available for us. Also, a notice that the tour of Mr. Deedat will continue until the end of July, so you may inquire about further functions if you wish. Also, there is an announcement I was requested to make on behalf of Dr. Clark, that those who wish to discuss with him, understand Muslims or non-Muslims, who wish to ask him questions or queries should contact him after the presentation. On Monday, July the 8th, there is another function on Christ in Islam at 7 or 1 p.m. At 7 p.m. in Southampton in the Civic Center. And there's also additional information for those who wish to obtain them.
Dr. Badawi, you don't mention where the venue of the Dr. Clark. You can meet Dr. Clark. No.
The venue for Dr. Clark, those who wish to meet with him, they can meet in the lower level in the West Arena room below entrance number 1. I wonder if there's any other announcement so that we can conclude.
There is tea and coffee.
There is tea and coffee so that you can cool down a little bit. And in conclusion, any other announcement?
This video, it can be by direct.
There are also some videotapes of Mr. Deedat's presentations and dialogues which are available, so you can inquire from the organizers after the meeting. Again, I would like to apologize for the brothers whom I cut off, even though I didn't want to do it. I apologize to all of you. If there is any error, I seek forgiveness of Allah for that. And I thank you most earnestly, as well as our honored speakers, for your patience. Thank you very much. Address.
Is indeed from God. Does it contradict itself in as much as it says,
okay.
Therefore Jesus was born, he died, and he rose again. The second question, if God...
I'm sorry. The rules...